Welcome once again to Dialogue on Public Issues. I'm John Chowning, host with Campbellsville University. Today I have a good friend as my special guest. He has been on our show and a guest on the campus of Campbellsville University on prior occasions. The Reverend Dr. Robert Blythe, pastor of First Baptist Church of Richmond, Kentucky. And also we should call him the Honorable Robert Blythe, Mayor of the city of Richmond, Kentucky. Dr. Blythe, welcome once again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chowning, and I'm honored certainly to be numbered among your friends. I appreciate our fellowship, and I've always had wonderful fellowship with the folks at Campbellsville. Thank you so much for giving me this honor.
Tell us just very briefly your background, Dr. Blythe, and experience. You've had a rich life and a full life.
I'm sorry. Let's see here. I'm sorry. Let me turn this up here. I'm a lifelong resident. I'm sorry. Don't worry about that. I'm a lifelong resident. I'm getting the volume set up. I'm a lifelong resident of Richmond and attended the public schools of Richmond, Eastern Kentucky University, here at home, and was privileged to be called in December of 1981 to serve as pastor of the First Baptist Church where I grew up. It was my home church, and was involved in much of the activity of that church from the day I was born. I've had the honor, and I do consider it an honor, to be a part of that fellowship and congregation, which has been there on that site for 177 plus years. So I love Richmond, and I've decided I won't go anywhere else at this point in my life.
Dr. Blythe, it must be very special being pastor of your home church, a church that has 177 years, a very rich legacy of ministry and history. Tell us about your pastoral ministry at First Baptist Church. How long have you been pastor, and what are some of the key ministries of this great church?
I've been privileged to serve. This calendar year is 39 years as pastor, and the church has been very much a part of this community, actively involved in this community ever since she's been there on that site, the same site, for 177 years. We minister to children and teens because we've always had a wonderful number of families in our church. Lots of children. We've ministered to our seniors in a time when that truly is a necessary ministry. Folks are living longer. Had folks in our congregation, for example, last year passed away, one at the age of 105, one at the age of 102. Right now, we have 101-year-old, several in their 90s and so on. My point is, as people are living longer, certainly a ministry for those who have been a part of the Lord's business, I'll say it like that, for many years of their lives, deserve to see that the Lord continues to take care of them through the generations that have ensued. So we're able to minister outside our walls, of course, in many ways, in feeding and providing housing for the homeless, particularly homeless families. So we have a shelter where we house homeless families. Not singles and individuals, but families. There must be children under 18. We have mothers and fathers and their children. We've housed mothers and children and fathers and children. That's so I think one of the greatest opportunities for us to minister beyond our walls and providing homes at a time when homelessness is such a tremendous issue among us. So our church participates throughout the community ecumenically with the churches, the other congregations of our community also.
To what do you ascribe, Mayor, your or Reverend, I should say,
that's all right,
your long success as a pastor for 39 years, a remarkable tenure?
Couple of things, Dr. Chowning. One, I love what I do now, and I know that this is what the Lord has called me to do. As I heard one preacher sort of term that, when you know that you know that you know. And I know this is what the Lord wanted me to do for him. And also, it is absolutely necessary, as I mentioned to you, that we have lots of children and teenagers. We have lots of millennials who are active in the congregation. Praise God, but active. Well, part of that is the ministry of the church must remain relevant. It doesn't mean, let me say it like this, it doesn't mean that we have to have breakdancing in the service on Sunday morning. That's not what I mean. I mean, but must remain relevant. Understand the language of things that are happening right now. Understand the forces that are drawing and attempting to draw our children and our young people, to know the current issues of the day, and to respect the fact that there may be some things that our youth and children are coming in contact with that were not a part of my generation. And I've got to ask them, and I do that. I ask them, come tell me what that's about, to let them know that whatever it is you are going through, whatever it is you're experiencing, I want to know what it is so that I can relate better to you.
So you are truly doing what we would call intergenerational ministry, covering from Generation Z all the way to the greatest generation.
Yes, indeed. And you know, Dr. Channing, there's a pastor friend of mine from Louisville that we invited one year to come share with us in our annual, what we called our youth retreat. And it was such a great thing that the adults took it over. It was wonderful because, and this pastor said, and he is a state association participant and active and involved in the work of our state, but he said to me, I have witnessed here one of the greatest examples or models for intergenerational ministry I've ever seen. We had infants, we had folks carrying their babies at the retreat, but we also had folks who were well over 80 years of age who were there were classes, activities, and we did them, most of them, together. Intergenerational ministry, yes.
That speaks well for your leadership, because a lot of churches, many churches, are struggling with intergenerational ministry.
Yes.
Moving on to a topic that's current, obviously, as well, impacts of COVID-19. What impacts has COVID-19 had on your particular congregation, Dr. Blythe?
As we try to follow the directives, and there have not been a lot of mandates per se, but the directives given by the CDC, by the governor of our state. We've tried to do those things, but not only because they come down as but because there are some things we need to do because they're the right thing to do. And when we are concerned about the well-being, the welfare of others, then we start doing such things as, I'll get in another hit here for my city. I love my city. But we do those things like wearing masks, shaking hands, keeping distance. And that's difficult, especially for people of faith who want to embrace. But we try to do those things. Now, that's also led us away from in-person services. We stream live using Facebook Live and YouTube in our services on Sundays and Wednesdays for our Bible study and prayer meeting. We're traditional. So we still have prayer meeting and Bible study on Wednesday nights. I invite sometimes one of our members in to lead some singing, the prayer meeting. The deacon always opens up and that kind of thing. But that's what we're doing right now. We've also gone through our church with a committee to make the kinds of modifications to be ready for the time when we do come back. And, with the pews and the spacing on the pews, entrances, restrooms, all those things we're taking into consideration as we try to prepare for whenever we do come back. But I'll say this one thing that a member said to me several months ago. She sent me an email that said, Pastor, thank you for not bringing us back too soon. I've never forgotten that, Doctor.
Very good points there that you're making. We do what we do in the church, not simply to comply with state mandate.
That's right.
CDC mandate. We do it to protect the least of these.
Yes.
We do it because we're taught to love others as we love ourselves. We do it to protect others.
Yes.
And I think that in the American culture, where many people pride themselves with their self-sufficiency and their declaration of their freedom, we forget about our responsibility to others.
Yes, that's it. That's it.
And we in the church need to proclaim that
Yes.
During this time as well as all times.
And Dr. Channing, and in the process of doing what we're doing, we're trying to be certain, nevertheless, that we stay in touch with each other.
Amen.
That hymn, blessed be the tie that binds,
Yes.
that second verse, that verse that says, when we asunder part, it gives us inward pain, but we shall still be joined in heart and hope to meet again. We're trying to stay in touch with each other.
Amen. Let's move on to your public service. You are one of those people who have been active in several domains. We haven't even touched on your years in education. So you've been a pastor, you've been an educator, and also a public servant. You served as both a city commissioner, and now you are in your first term as the mayor of the great city of Richmond. What prompted you to get into public service and to run for public office?
Let me say it this way, first of all, in public service in general, the only thing I could come up with several weeks ago when someone asked me, and when I was speaking with a group of young people who were looking or aspiring to do some things in public service, and I said, just understand that some of us are just wound that way. We do it because there's something inside that tells us this is the direction we're to travel. But I cannot forget, and I must not forget, an interview that was conducted back when I first ran for office and was successful. A columnist from an area newspaper came to interview me at the church. And her first question was, why would a man of God want to jump into a barrel of snakes? And I thought, oops, but no, I said, no, it's because I want to bring who I am, my influence. I am a man of faith. I love the Lord because he heard my cry. Well, I want to share who I am with the offices that others who may not be people of faith, who may not love others, who may not care about the well-being of the community, who may have some motive that is less than honorable. Why should I not? I am a voter and a taxpayer. Why should I not be allowed to enter the arena of public service? And I often mention, Dr. Channing, to folks that I am not a politician. I am a public servant and an elected official. That word politician can sometimes be so connotative and bring up ugly things in people's minds. You know, when I first became a commissioner, it was a long time before I realized that I was going to get a check. Because that was not why I sought the position.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the priorities you have as mayor of Richmond?
Well, you know, being a minister, and certainly as a pastor, there are some issues, and my issues are not, for example, my primary issues are not such things as the financial situation for the city, because we're fiscally sound, in a very good position. And, so that's not my primary interest. Is as our director of parks, director of the Parks Department, put it a couple of weeks ago. She said, we have to take care of the soul of this community, which is why our parks are doing such a great job right now, for example, in providing activities and opportunities for people. Folks are getting depressed and they're getting anxious in this time, and our parks are doing a great job. But I found, whether I wanted to go this direction or not, there are folks who will call me to ask me, Mayor, would you please pray with me? Mayor, would you pray for my family? My child is not doing it. I mean, it's awesome what is happening in City Hall. Folks realize, and I always tell folks this, you knew what I was when you elected me. I didn't come here to change. I came here with a sense of integrity to be who I am. And folks have indicated to me by their actions and by their comments, that's really what they wanted. They wanted me to continue to be a minister to this town. And I thank God for the privilege.
It affords you a great opportunity, an extraordinary opportunity.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
How has COVID-19 impacted the city of Richmond's operations overall?
Just in the past week or so, we had to dismiss an entire department, our public works department, which includes streets and roads and so on, because someone in that department tested positive. Now, let's go back several months when we first became more aware of the impact of COVID on us. We sent basically all of our employees, other than our first responders, our police and fire, and just a skeleton crew in City Hall. We sent everybody home, and we were able to send them home with their paycheck also, regular paycheck. But we brought them back in slowly. We would bring in a part, for example, of a shift, not an entire shift in those departments that we sent home. And but we've been able to manage quite well through all of this. But we had to send some folks home. We had to let the people of the community know, for example, last week, your trash pickup with respect to limbs and that kind of thing is going to be put on hold because we had to send that entire department home. Please be patient with us. And the people of Richmond have been just that. They've been patient with us.
Very good. You recently spoke in Campbellsville University's chapel service. You spoke virtually because of we have gone to virtual chapels because of COVID-19 pandemic. Your message was a part of annual dialogue that we've been doing since the fall of 1999. Why do you think in 2020 that we still need to be having these conversations on issues of race and ethnicity?
If I may use an old saying out of place, the proof is in the pudding. All we have to do daily is look at the things that are happening around us, things that are being said. This is 2020. And some of the very same things that were issues when I was a freshman in college in 1967, some of these same things that were primary and prominent issues then are issues again. And I tell you why I believe that this is the case. I tell folks there's not enough legislation in the world to fix our problem. We have, Dr. Chowning, a heart problem. It's not about legislation. It's not about police. It's not about any of those things. Because if our hearts are in the right place and the right condition, we will, as I had mentioned, even perhaps in the words I said a few days ago in Campbellsville, virtually, if our hearts are right, We'll treat people right. We'll desire good things for those around us. We will care about other people's children in a good way. And we will certainly love each other. Now, I'm sorry to say it like this. No, I'm not. Good Baptist word. My mentor and predecessor at the church, again, Reverend Goodlow, whom I referenced in my words a few days ago, said, if you think somebody is full of hell, love the hell out of them. That's a good Baptist word, isn't it?
It is.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't want to be out of line, but that's it.
Preach it.
And for those who are not familiar, we've got to learn how to love. We've got to learn, but love is going to be the key, not legislation. We'll do the right legislating if our hearts are in the right place.
We've recently experienced here in the United States a great deal of social unrest in various communities around the nation. Here in Kentucky, with the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and others. As a Black minister, as a Black elected official, I'm sure you're hearing a lot of comment and concerns expressed about these matters. What are you hearing among the citizens in Richmond, specifically in your community, about these matters, and what words of advice would you give to all of us with regard to those issues and those concerns?
Some might recall that in the city of Richmond, several weeks, in fact, several months ago, during the time of the demonstrations, I'm from the 60s, so I call them demonstrations, right. and rallies and protests is the word that's being used now. But we actually had one here in the city of Richmond, and lots of folks were anxious about it. They thought, oh my gosh, we're going to have the kinds of things that have erupted in so many other cities. And I kept telling them, no, we won't. We're going to have, it was actually organized and facilitated by three young African-American ladies who wanted to do this because they wanted to be able to express themselves also as others were expressing themselves around the country. However, we had a peaceful demonstration. Close to 1,000 people participated. City of Richmond, wow. And it was peaceful. It was effective. Folks got to say what they wanted to say. No one was out of line to blast. We simply, and I was one of the speakers, and we were able simply to communicate to each other, we are concerned about the well-being of our country. Our community thus far has not had to deal with some of the things that are prompting what we're seeing. But we had such a notable protest, rally, demonstration that we were mentioned on CNN. Mm-hmm. And CNN said that obviously the smaller towns of our country have got this thing together, because from Palmer, Alaska to Richmond, Kentucky, they've been able to have peaceful demonstrations that included such a diverse participation. I thank God for that.
Amen.
Our rally, our demonstration was bathed in prayer. And that's not overstatement. Bathed in prayer. Folks prayed and prayed and prayed that whatever came out of that demonstration would be to the glory of God. And it was. That's where we are.
Dr. Blythe, are you concerned in 2020? You and I are about the same age, very close to the same age, yes. And grew up and watched the experiences of the 60s into the 70s.
Yes.
And now we're experiencing and seeing the events of 2020 into 2021, no doubt. But my question is this. Are you concerned that we are being pulled apart as a nation by the extremes of both the far right and the far left, and that we can't have civil discourse, and even in some elements in the church, even to some extent in the context of the Christian faith. We have folks who don't want to sit down and have conversation. They would rather engage in harsh rhetoric, name calling, and threats of violence. Not in the church per se, although unfortunately we've seen people go into churches and carry out racial shootings and so forth in the case of Charleston and other places.
Yes.
A comment on that. Are we pulling our nation apart?
Yes, Dr. Channing.
And as a Christian, what would you say as a pastor and a mayor?
Now, first of all, to answer the first question, yes, I am. In fact, my heart pains daily. I told my congregation and some friends by text a few days ago that my spirit is tired because I'm watching as folks mistreat each other and as they say things and do things, as we get in the streets and do things toward each other, as you said, the extremes clashing.
Right.
And it pains my heart. And I look at, for example, one of the major cities of our state, and I've said, I don't know if that city will ever be able to heal. Now, I trust God, and I know that healing is possible. But it's like Sam Cooke sang years ago about that long time coming, but I know my change is going to come. That worries me. It pains my heart. Now, so I see it, yes, as a pastor and as the mayor. One of the things we've got to do, and I sent this as a suggestion to the mayor of Louisville many weeks ago, before some of the most pronounced riots, that's what they were, occurred. And I said, see if you can get folks to sit down at the table together, because there's going to have to be some face-to-face conversation, some putting it all out there.
Yes.
There's got to be what Aretha Franklin called RESPECT. There's got to be a demonstration of respect for one another. And we're seeing families divided. Someone told me the other day that they thought they were going to have a somewhat traditional Thanksgiving dinner this year still. I said, well, if you do, don't bring up politics. Because even in families, it's dividing. If you don't see it my way, you're wrong. That's the position so many are taking. You are wrong because you don't think as I think. And it's dividing this country. I would not be surprised if there's not a mini civil war looming out there somewhere. God forbid. We've got
That brings me back probably what may be my final question. What should we as people of faith, the Christian community, do with regard to addressing issues? We as Christians can't sit back.
Yes, sir.
Ignore these conditions, it seems to me. And that's why I hear you saying as well.
Yes, sir. Let me say it quickly, Dr. Chowning, in the interest of time now. One of the things that Reverend Goodloe said, and I used it also in my words a few days ago, he said, Brother Robert, Jesus Christ is the answer to all of this world's problems. We've got to take him seriously because, as Jesus said to Peter, I give you the keys. People of faith must be very careful that although we are to be good citizens participating in the political process, we must not bring that political mess into the worship of our God. Now, I got to clarify that. Yes, we need to look at issues, but it needs to be about issues. And we cannot confuse who we are as people of faith with, for example, political preferences. If there are issues and ideas, personalities who even espouse those ideas, wonderful, we can follow the ideas and the issues. But I believe we become so individual focused that that we can't even talk with one another
Right.
without demanding that the person with whom we're talking think the same way we're thinking. Whatever happened to sitting down and discussing things? Because, and I say this in closing, I often tell folks that one of the reasons I like listening to children is because I always learn something from them. They don't complicate matters. They just tell you what they're thinking. They don't say it to be offensive. They don't do what children do to be offensive or to hurt. They just tell you without complicating matters with other stuff. I wish we could go back, like Jesus said, that it's what you see in the faith of a little child that models what we are supposed to be if we want to get into the kingdom. I would like to see us have childlike, not childish,
Right.
childlike faith, even in our politics.
As a fellow Baptist minister, and I would say to you, and all of God's people say, amen.
Bless you, my friend.
Dr. Robert Blythe, pastor, First Baptist Church, mayor of the city of Richmond, thank you so much for your valuable time this day.
What a tremendous honor and privilege this is, Dr. Chowning. Always, always. If Campbellsville needs anything from me, anything I can do for that campus that is dear to me, even though I'm not an alumnus and so on, I would certainly appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate your wonderful chapel message and keynoting our dialogue on race. We've been going with that every year since 1999. And I would suggest, as you and I have talked, that's what more people need to be doing. That's what you just said.
Yes.
We need to be talking. We need to be talking and dialoguing. And thank you so much.
Dialoguing, Dr. Chowning, and talking with, not talking at.
Very good distinction. Yeah. This is John Chowning for Dialogue on Public Issues, thanking our audience for being with us once again. God bless.